Hi, I'm B from Nectar Mechanics, and in today's video, we're going to be making my very own 3D printed and transforming Soundwave. Okay, so if you're a long-time viewer of the channel, then you know that one of my latest obsessions has been making my own 3D printed Transformer figures. And one of my first major projects was a giant Soundwave that could actually play real cassette tapes. Ever since then, I've wanted to have a go at making a second one, this time in the smaller scale I've been working in since. But we got listings for an official 86 Soundwave toy. So I waited, and then we got images of it. Now, if I'm completely honest, I was a bit disappointed by this figure. It's missing the grey stripe on the bottom of the tape player, his proportions look off, he's missing paint taps. It just wasn't what I was hoping for. So I decided this was the kick I needed to have a go at making my own one. So with all that out of the way, we can now begin the first major design step. This is going to be drawing out some rough sketches. These drawings, while scrappy, serve as a guide to help keep me on track, as well as help me work through potential problems on paper before it even reaches the CAD. Another thing I consider at this stage is where I can mitigate supports. A complex model like this is gonna need supports in some form, but anything I can work into the design from the get-go, like separately printed tabs or minimal overhangs, is gonna be a big help down the road. So designing a working transforming figure from scratch is about as hard as it sounds. So what we're going to do to make our lives a little bit easier is just start off by translating our sketches into a block model. I started off with a software called FreeCAD for this. FreeCAD is what's known as a sketch-based modeling program. All it really means is that our parts will start off as a 2D sketch, which we can then constrain with measurements. Once we have these sketches finished, we can then stretch them into a 3D object. From here, we can then continue to sketch onto this object, and the following sketches could either be used to build off of or cut into the initial object. So with that out of the way, we can actually begin our block model. This is going to have all the same proportions and part layout of our final figure, just without any of the surface detail. Not only does it make it print quicker, but we can also iterate and tweak it easier on the computer. Now, seeing as I want him to be compatible with the official cassette tape figures, I started off with his torso. From here, I worked my way down to the crotch and legs, where I then had to decide, how tall do I make him? It's a common misconception that Soundwave's the same height as his Autobot rival Blaster, but looking at the 80s cartoon scale guides, you can see that Soundwave is about half a head shorter. So this means that my figure is shorter than Legacy Blaster, but taller than my Seekers from last year, which feels about right to me. It's by this point I decided to swap over to a program called Blender. FreeCAD, while good for getting measurements, is also a parametric program, which means that each part is made out of a series of actions that are held together in a chain. And if you change an earlier action, it updates all the following actions down this chain. This is great. It means that you can quickly adapt complex parts and it's, always consistent with itself. But if you break something earlier in the chain, that also dominoes down. And with the amount of tweaks and changes I was doing daily, I was constantly breaking these chains and having to rebuild the object from scratch. So eventually I took all the parts I'd finished so far and chucked them into Blender. Blender is a surface mesh modeling program. So while it's more tricky to get precise measurements compared to FreeCAD, you model by moving vertices around, not by updating parameters. And this means it's a lot more forgiving when you temporarily break an object. Now, normally with these types of projects, I would wait until I have a finished block model, and then I would begin test printing and iterating. But if there's one thing I've learned from my previous Transformer projects, it's that just because it works in the computer doesn't mean it works in reality. So I figured once we've got a major section complete, like say the legs, we'll just send it off to print and continue modeling. Because realistically, I know I'm gonna have to change something. And so begins the prototyping phase, a phase which lasted about 5 months, on and off. You see, because of my resistance to fake parts, I made my life infinitely harder. The G1 cartoon was hand-drawn, which means that parts were not 100% proportionally consistent with each other. A great example of this is when he transforms into his cassette player mode. His thighs form a thin grey stripe going all the way along the bottom. But if I made his thighs that thin in robot mode, it would look ridiculous. So, after many, and I mean many iterations, I landed on having the thigh split down the middle, and then it pivots 90 degrees to go flush with the rest of the tape deck. But all of these issues pale in comparison to the tape deck door. Remember how I said I want it spring-loaded? Well, 3D printed springs are not uncommon. But I've never tried making one before, so me being me, I decided the only logical course of action was to become a spring expert for a week. I spent ages researching torsion springs, compression springs, extension springs, trying to figure out what worked best for my project's needs. After settling on a torsion spring, I got to work testing different part thicknesses. The results of this testing meant I settled on a thickness of about 2.85 millimeters. Yes, it really did end up being that specific. Okay, so after all that, we've finally managed to work through all of the major roadblocks, and now we're left with a block model that's fully capable of transforming. So now it's time for the fun part, the detailing. Starting off with the head, the only part of the block model I'm transferring over is the ball joint socket, as the rest of the head is such a unique shape. I find when modeling head sculpts that the more reference images from different angles, the better. Like I was saying earlier, it was hand-drawn, which means that nothing's 100% consistent, so it's up to you when making the 3D model to choose what the happy medium is. Moving down to the rest of the body, since I'm going for cartoon accuracy, I can't just coat him in details like the Siege figures, but I also don't want him to look smooth and boring and simple. So for my design, whenever there's a detail, there's a blank surface next to it to help break it up. And that way, I get a nice blend of both worlds. Since the cartoon model is basically entirely flat, I instead took inspiration from the toys for the surface details. While the Masterpiece figure definitely had the most influence, I also took inspiration from the vintage toy for his shoulders, the Earthrise toy for his tape door and lower legs, and various other figures, including even the Lego model, to get the right balance I wanted. The only thing I didn't use the toys as reference for was the back of the tape player. While I'm aware that it's accurate to have the arms just sort of hanging off the back, it's never looked right to me. So I had spent a lot of time during the block model phase getting the back as flat and as smooth as I could get it. This meant in the detailing phase, I could do details like a pretend battery cover and speaker grills without having to split it across a bumpy, uneven surface. So now that we're nearing the end, it's time for the final touches, the accessories. The first and most obvious is his blaster rifle, which I made by copy-pasting his shoulder cannon and tweaking the length and details. The vintage toy had both become fake batteries, so they should be the same sort of diameter. The second was a non-transforming cassette tape to fit inside the tape deck door. While I do have plans to make my own versions of characters like Laserbeak down the road, they're a little way away yet, so for the time being I wanted to include this non-transforming tape that's the same size as the Siege and Onwards cassettes, which means that yes, it does fit in figures like Blaster as well. The final accessory, while completely unnecessary, is easily the cutest. It's a tiny version of his cassette player mode from when he shrunk down in the cartoon. And with that mini player modeled, it's time for the final print. Now, like I said, I designed this model to be color separated, but something new I've been experimenting with is mid-print filament swaps. Don't worry, this doesn't require a dual extruder machine. All I've done is add color change pauses in the slicer software on specific layers. This means I can swap the filament mid-print to get multiple colors all fused into one part. A good example of this is the cassette tape. Printing it flat on its back means you can do the initial layers in black, swap to white in the middle, and then cap it off with black again, so only the area of the tape that would have a sticker or a label is colored in. One of the main benefits to this technique, besides from just having less parts to assemble, is that instead of dealing with a bunch of weak, tiny parts, you have one solid block that's much stronger. The last new thing that I tried experimenting with was clear filament. See, I really wanted to be able to look into the cassette window and see a cassette tape behind it, so I reached out to Prusa and they sent me some transparent PETG to try out. My initial prints were really cloudy, so I did some research and I found that if I printed it with a solid infill, with no alternating layer patterns and a much slower print speed, I got some really nice results. So now, after 5 months, I could begin the final assembly. This guy is easily the 3D model I've spent the most time designing and iterating ever. The amount of testing required to get the springs to work, the text legible, the window clear, and all the other roadblocks that I've gone over, it was a lot. But I feel like the extra time I spent shows, and I'm immensely proud of how it turned out. So, with all that said, let's take a look at the final results. I'm so proud of how this guy came out. I mean, just look at him. The proportions are spot on, the head sculpt's exactly how I wanted, the crisp edges from not having to paint anything. Oh, it's easily one of the best ones I've done. If you want to have a go at printing this guy off yourself, or you just want to help support me in my work, then you can purchase them via the Cults link down in the description below. There's even a how to assemble video guide that will make it as easy a build process as possible. So if you liked what you saw and you want to see more, then feel free to subscribe, and I'll catch you next time. Farewell!